And welcome back to Play Action Fantasy Football. This is Jonathan here with you going over our Week 16 start-sits for running backs. And we're going to go ahead and kick it off with Thursday night. Go ahead, subscribe while you're listening. And Thursday night, we have Saints at the Rams. Looking at running backs, Alvin Kamara, Kyren Williams. Definitely got to start both these guys now. I do have to say both of them are going up against a very good defense. The Saints have a very good defense as well as the Rams. Especially against the run. And Alvin Kamara, he's more than just a runner. He does a lot in that offense. He's catching a lot of passes, running the ball. So he's a huge part of that offense. So either way, against the Rams, he's going to eat and get points. So definitely got to start him. Kyren Williams, another guy who, this is just somebody that the Rams have been relying on. They haven't been relying on the pass as they've been doing in the past. So definitely got to start Williams this week. It's going to be not the best matchup against the Saints, but no matter what, Williams definitely puts up points. Last week he had 150 rushing yards, over 150 rushing yards, and then a touchdown and 5 catches for a few yards. So he definitely is going to be putting up points. Definitely got to start him. Going to our Saturday game, we got 4:30 Saturday, Bengals at the Steelers. Good rivalry matchup. Looking at the Bengals, they got Joe Mixon, Chase Brown. Definitely got to sit Chase Brown. He's been playing a little bit better and better. They're getting him involved a little bit, but I definitely would not count on him, especially in the playoffs. Don't play Chase Brown. Got to sit him. Joe Mixon, got to start him against the Steelers. Like I said, it's going to be a good rivalry matchup for sure. Joe Mixon last week only had 47 rushing yards. He had a touchdown and 3 catches for 14 yards. So nothing too crazy, but that was against Minnesota, who's one of the best defenses in the league. So definitely look for him this week against the Steelers. Good matchup. Definitely get him in your lineup. As far as the Steelers go, Najee Harris, Jaylen Warren. Najee Harris is questionable. It's looking like he is most likely going to be playing. He's been dealing with a knee injury the past couple weeks, and it's definitely any continue to play. So he should be fine, but I'm still going to sit him. He hasn't been putting up any more than 10 points throughout the past 5-6 weeks, so definitely have to sit him. And Jaylen Warren is going to be cautionary. Cautionary start as in if you have to put him in, go ahead and put him in, but certainly do not count on Jaylen Warren, but he might be a viable option if you have to. Our Saturday night game at 8 o'clock is the Bills at the Chargers. Looking at James Cook, Austin Eckler. James Cook, what a week he had last week. I've been saying it that he's the most inconsistent running back. However, I think that's about to change. James Cook, he's been playing very well, and this Bills offense is actually starting to recirculate around the running game instead of the pass, as they've been passing the ball for years. That's been their go-to with Josh Allen, but they're going to start switching it up and start going more towards the run. So James Cook against the Chargers defense isn't very impressive whatsoever. A good matchup for James Cook. Get him in your lineup. Austin Eckler, it's not the best matchup, and the Chargers have not been as hot as they usually have been. Eckler hasn't been putting up those Eckler points, those 20, 30-point games. But I do think it's still a good opportunity against the Bills, and Eckler plays a huge part in this Chargers offense. There's no way that you don't start him. Going to Sunday, we got our first 1 o'clock game. The Commanders at the Jets. Kind of a shit show game. We got Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson for the Commanders. Brian Robinson is questionable. Again, this is Monday that I record, so we'll kind of have to, or it's actually Tuesday I'm recording. We're gonna have to keep that on lookout and see exactly if he's going to be playing or not. If he is playing, you might want to throw him in your lineup if you have to, as he's usually one of the top backs. But definitely got to be cautionary with it. If you think there's somebody else I got starting, you might want to go with those guys instead of him. And then I'm going to go to Antonio Gibson for the Commanders. Antonio Gibson, he's going to be a cautionary start. Obviously, this is going to be if Brian Robinson isn't playing. If Brian Robinson is not playing, certainly pick Antonio Gibson up. I know he's free in almost all the leagues, so definitely want to pick him up, maybe decide to play him. That's up to you, but it's going to be a very good one for Gibson if Robinson does not play. And for the Jets, Breece Hall, definitely got to start Breece Hall this week. The Commanders' defense is very shaky, and Breece Hall, big offensive weapon there for the Jets. I know he only had about 3 points last week, which was not impressive at all, but that was a very peculiar week for the Jets and Breece Hall. So don't expect that to keep happening. Definitely got to start Breece Hall. The next game is the Lions at the Vikings. Looking at Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Ty Chandler, Alexander Mattison. Some big names there for the Lions. Jahmyr Gibbs, definitely got to start him. He's the lead back there for the Lions. He's putting up a lot of points every single week. Definitely want to start him, even though the Vikings have a very good defense. And Montgomery, David Montgomery, he's been playing good all year. He's kind of slowing his role behind Gibbs. I got to sit him this week against the Vikings. The Vikings have a very good defense, especially against a run. The Lions are going to be having to pass it, and that's not going to involve Montgomery very much. So definitely sit Montgomery if you're listening to this. And the Vikings, Ty Chandler, Alexander Mattison. Ty Chandler is going to be a cautionary start. He played very well last week in place of Mattison, and it certainly can keep up. The Lions have a very good defense, so I wouldn't expect him to have, 25, 30 points. What did he have last week? Last week he had 25 points, 130 rushing yards, a touchdown, 25 receiving yards. I wouldn't expect all that, in all honesty. But I do think if Mattison isn't playing, he still will be heavily involved. Now, if Mattison is playing, again, he is questionable. We will see throughout the week. I'm going to have to sit him. He's not going to be putting up a crazy amount of points. I think he'll get 10 points at the max if he is playing. So definitely got to sit Mattison this week. Now, as far as the Browns and Texans go, that's the next game we're looking at. Jerome Ford, Kareem Hunt for the Browns. I got to start Jerome Ford. I got to sit Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt, he has not been scoring many points whatsoever this year. He's really relying on touchdowns a lot, and I don't see that changing against the Texans. So definitely got to sit Hunt. Jerome Ford, I'm going to start him. He's been very, very consistent, scoring at least 10 to 15 points in almost every single game. So against the Texans, it's a good matchup. Definitely got to start Jerome Ford this week. As far as the Texans go, Devin Singletary, Dameon Pierce. Dameon Pierce, don't worry about him. Definitely got to sit him. Devin Singletary, they're going up against a very good Browns defense who's actually very injured, but they definitely have one of the best defenses in the league. So it's going to be a tough one for Singletary, to say the least. So I definitely would put him as cautionary, maybe throw him in a flex. If you have a better option, go with the better option. Next up is the Packers at the Panthers. Running backs Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon for the Packers. Aaron Jones definitely got to start him this week. The Panthers' run defense is not very good whatsoever, and Aaron Jones is coming off. He had an injury he's been dealing with throughout the year and stuff, but last week he did play, and he had a decent week last week. He didn't have anything too crazy. I think he had about 50-something yards and 4 catches for 15, 16, 17 yards. So I got to say, it's looking good for him. I think he's on the uprise, and it's going to be a good breakout game against the Panthers for sure. And A.J. Dillon, he is questionable. I got to sit him. It's not looking good for him. Aaron Jones back. Got to sit A.J. Dillon. For the Panthers, Chuba Hubbard, definitely start him. He's been playing very well, and he's highly involved in this Panthers offense against the Packers, who actually struggle on defense quite a bit. So definitely start Hubbard this week. And Miles Sanders, if you don't know, now you know. Sit his ass. Not looking good for him. Next game we're going to go to is the Seahawks at the Titans. This is another good running back situation here for both teams. Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet for the Seahawks. I got to start Kenneth Walker. He's coming back. Again, he started with some injuries, and he is back. He started last week, first week off injury, and he actually played very well. He had about 86 rushing yards for a touchdown and 3 catches for 26 yards. So that's pretty impressive coming off your first injury week. So definitely against the Titans, you have to start Kenneth Walker. He's a great running back, very talented. And Zach Charbonnet, he's going to be stepping back as he was when Walker was healthy. So Charbonnet, don't get him in your lineup, have to sit him. Titans, Derrick Henry, Tyjae Spears. Derrick Henry, definitely got to start him this week against the Seahawks. Seahawks defense, a very iffy defense, and King Henry does what he does. So definitely start King Henry. Tyjae Spears, cautionary start. Seahawks like to give up a lot of points to running backs. Tyjae Spears likes to capitalize on that, as do the Titans offense. So definitely Tyjae Spears, if you have him, you might want to put him in a flex position. The last 1 o'clock game is the Colts at the Falcons. Zach Moss, Jonathan Taylor, both questionable for the Colts. Zach Moss, I'm going to have to sit him. It's not looking like he's going to be the number one guy there, and so I got to sit him. Jonathan Taylor, probably going to play again. It's Tuesday, so we will see, but he's going to be a cautionary start against this number 2 defense of the Falcons. They're number 2 against rushing, I should say. So Jonathan Taylor, obviously, is a great running back. If you have him in your lineup, definitely consider playing him this week, but you also might have to consider sitting him as well. Now the Falcons, Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier. This one's pretty simple. The Colts defense, to say nicely, sucks. Bijan Robinson is going to have to be a start. He's definitely going to be getting points. He's been a big part of this offense. And Tyler Algier, he's been moving slower and slower all year as far as points go, so definitely have to sit him. Going to our 4 o'clock games, our first one is the Jaguars at the Buccaneers. Travis Etienne, Rachaad White, not too much to cover there. Both of them are going to be starts. Buccaneers have a better defense than the Jaguars for sure, but Rachaad White is heavily involved, and same thing with Etienne. So definitely get both those guys in your lineup. The next 4 o'clock game is the Cowboys at the Dolphins. It's going to be a hell of a game. Tony Pollard, Raheem Mostert, and Achane. So I got to start Pollard this week. Dolphins have a very good defense, but I don't think it's going to matter, as Pollard is going to have himself a day. And Raheem Mostert, he's going to be a start. Cowboys have a very good defense as well, but I do think this Dolphins offense is very powerful. Cowboys are going to be so worried about the pass. Mostert is certainly there to get carries and even some dump-off passes. So definitely have to start Mostert. And Achane, he's going to be a cautionary start, but I would lean towards starting him. It just depends on your situation, honestly. But Achane is going to be a cautionary start this week. Now going to our 4 o'clock game. Next 4 o'clock game is the Cardinals at the Bears. James Conner, I'm just going to say it all. Cardinals and Bears, we're sitting all 4 of these guys. James Conner has to be a sit. Rashawn Johnson has to be a sit. Donta Foreman has to be a sit. Khalil Herbert has to be a sit. Rashawn Johnson, Donta Foreman, Khalil Herbert, they all split carries, and so it's really not looking good for any of those running backs. Don't get them in your lineup. And as far as James Conner goes, I usually would maybe want to cautionary start him, but I don't see that happening with the Bears this week. The Bears' front line is looking very good, and they've been shutting down running backs, and I think that's going to continue this week against James Conner and the Cardinals. And then at 8 o'clock Sunday night, Christmas Eve, we have Patriots at the Broncos. Running backs Ramondre Stevenson, Ezekiel Elliott, Javonte Williams. Go ahead and start with the Broncos. Javonte Williams, he's a cautionary start this week. The Patriots have a very good defense, especially against a run, but I do like Javonte Williams. He's got a lot of power behind him. He's got a lot of will behind him, and I think he definitely could pull it off. So definitely cautionary start Javonte Williams. If you have him in flex, that's definitely a good option. Maybe RB1, RB2 if you have to, but put him there. And as far as the Patriots go, Ramondre Stevenson, he is questionable. He's been dealing with some injuries. Elliott's been playing for him. So if Stevenson is playing, I'm going to give him a cautionary start. Broncos defense has been looking a little bit better this year towards the later end of the year, but definitely not a great defense. Stevenson, questionable. Got a cautionary start him. Ezekiel Elliott, if Stevenson is not playing, you definitely have to start Elliott. He's going to be getting points against this Broncos defense. He's been eating with Stevenson gone, so I definitely think Elliott's a good choice. Put him in your lineup. Now going to Monday, our Christmas games, 1 o'clock, Raiders at Chiefs. We got two questionable guys who are both most likely going to be playing is Josh Jacobs, Isaiah Pacheco. Josh Jacobs against the Chiefs defense isn't the best matchup. He's going to be a cautionary start coming off this injury. And Isaiah Pacheco is going to be a start against the Raiders. The Raiders defense not looking very good. Patrick Mahomes and them are going to be eating. I don't care if Pacheco's coming off his injury. He's going to have a good day. He's had a lot of time to recover. Going to our 4:30 game, we have the Giants at the Eagles. Great rivalry matchup. Saquon Barkley, DeAndre Swift. Definitely got to put cautionary start on Barkley this week. The Eagles have a great defense, but Barkley is heavily involved with the Giants, and he's a great running back. So definitely cautionary start him this week, maybe as a flex position. Eagles, as far as the Eagles go, DeAndre Swift, definitely going to cautionary start him this week. The Eagles have been involving their other running backs, definitely have been struggling on offense. The Giants have a decent defense. I think it's going to be a cautionary start for Swift, leaning towards a start. So if you throw him in your flex, definitely, but maybe you want to second guess RB1, RB2. And then lastly, we have our Monday night game, Ravens at 49ers. Gus Edwards, Christian McCaffrey. Keaton Mitchell is now out for the Ravens, so it's going to heavily the run game, besides Lamar Jackson, is going to heavily involve Gus Edwards. So definitely cautionary start him against a good 49ers defense. And as far as the 49ers go, we all know how we're finishing this one off. Christian McCaffrey, got to start him. Look what he did last week. Last week he went off. He had 42 points fantasy-wise, 115 rushing yards, a touchdown, 72 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, what else can you ask for? So definitely, we all know we're starting Christian McCaffrey. Get him in your lineup. And with that being said, that is going to end our Week 16 running back start sits. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, it's Week 16. We have one more week left. I hope you guys are in the playoffs listening to this, hoping to get to the championship, win you some money, whatever the case may be. And go ahead, subscribe. We're trying to get our subscribers up by the end of the year, so go subscribe real quick and have a great fantasy weekend.